Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 on Black Ice 9.11, and of course we're playing as Japan, and Tippett wants us to leave Perth alone, and we might actually do that. We're going to go down in here to diplomacy, and we're going to add a war goal, and we're just going to puppet it. So we may not have to actually get to Perth and mess with Perth. We just may have to, deal with Eastern Australia. And then they'll surrender. Do they have most of their, presume most of their victory points? Yeah, I figured Perth would have one. Yes, I do know where Perth in Australia is. Never been there. Been to the real Perth, of course. Just a couple of times, but, well, no, it's a bit more inland. Where? There's Dunkeld. Stirling is south of it. Well, Perth is right in here. Don't know why it's not named in Scotland. Okay, well, whatever. Talking to those viewers who might want to join us sometime on a live show. This is being recorded live. Might want to ring that bell. Now, I only ring the bell for a few websites, so I'm not telling you that you got to ring that bell to get notifications. If you want to sort of know when I'm going live to be notified, do ring the bell. Otherwise, of course, just check your feeds or check the channel page and see when I release new stuff, which is basically daily. But yeah, we're talking a little bit about with some of the viewers here the recent, oh no, you stop and hold there, the recent incident where supposedly somebody from the Mueller probe into Trump's inner circle leaked that Trump had suborned perjury, which of course is a felony. And that, this is, a felony is an impeachable offense. Not that you would necessarily need to be impeached, but it does rise to that. And all the news media, or just about all the leftist news media, which is about 90% of the media, basically Fox News, The Blaze, CRTV, and a few other conservative stuff, but all the majors, and the BBC too, so I do know this was going a bit worldwide. Hello, Overlord. Good to see you. Oh, by the way, you and your squad might be able to do a versus me and my usual squad friends. Then you could have your own. Oh, Toyjet. Yeah, I want to set up some custom battles. We'll talk about that sometime. And for some reason, I'm buffering for myself up here. I hope you guys are still doing well. The stream health. Don't really want to click off of here, but I hope it's going well. I'd like some feedback if you're having a lot of buffering. But to get back to my point that I do want to hit on briefly before we really dig into play about the media, and the media is, oh yeah, no, I want to talk about some of that eventually here. That this isn't really about left and right media. This is about, because you can have, nope, not buffering. Good to hear. Because if Tippett's not getting buffering, it should be good most places. Is the trustworthy of the media, because you can have a left-leaning media source. We can have all of the media or just a particular source to be left-leaning, but to be trustworthy, so that they're sort of telling you the truth when what they're talking about, but they're giving a viewpoint. That's an acceptable thing to do. That's not a, maybe the best thing, but not a bad thing. It's just a thing. But when the media becomes untrustworthy, and so when there's this one BuzzFeed report out, all the media is, Trump is going to be impeached for about 24 hours on the media. And one thing that the Justice Department and the special counsel that's going after the Russia probe is part of the Justice Department really doesn't do is comment on current active investigations until they're commenting, releasing their, here are our findings. They did something wrong. Most of the time, if no one knows that they're, publicly knows that they're investigating something, which they try to keep it private. If nothing's been done wrong, they normally just don't say anything and it disappears. But if somebody's done something wrong, or if it's like a big public thing, they will come out and say, no crimes were done wrong. This is what we found, and go through it. They don't normally comment on ongoing things. But they did something very unprecedented, especially for Mueller, is come out and comment and basically say the story is entirely false. I mean, they didn't quite say entirely false. They're sort of very nuanced language, but basically the story is incorrect. And so this really damages media credibility in that somebody got some sources. Now, of course, even the sources, even the BuzzFeed people won't now come out and say, well, our source was this guy and this guy. Because that's what they should do. Is because when a source comes out and says, here's some secret information I'm leaking to you, the reporters are normally keep it quiet so that they can keep getting the leaks. But once it sort of comes out to be evidence that, hey, this isn't quite true, then the reporter should go, well, but this guy says it's true. So either this guy's lying or you're lying. Who do we believe? Well, they're not coming out and burning the source, as they say. So it sort of tells me that they've either made this up or they know the source was not a reliable source in the first place. It was somebody who knew somebody who worked on something, who heard something that he thought about, that somebody thought about something. I mean, that kind of round, gossipy kind of stuff that they're just sort of doing. And so this really hurting the news media credibility is going on. And so this is really good. And I also want to address right now Toy Jet with his long name. What I really want to do at some point is, yes, Team Gamer sort of grow it, because that would be good for the channel and good for everything else. But I would really like to set up some custom battles, Toy Jet, in which we specify, time periods and national sides, meaning all of the one side are the Allies and the real Axis, Germany, Italy or something, are all the other side. And maybe play them with, realistic battlefields or the arcade settings, so that you have to sort of kind of recognize enemy vehicles, and they're all like, 1940 era, 1940 year and before tanks. Set it up that way so that it's, so you don't have somebody driving a Puma around while most everyone else is driving early Panzer IVs, that kind of thing. So it's sort of historical in that sense, and play that. And I would really love to do some of that for War Thunder if we could get at least two squads of 4. 4 on a team or something. It doesn't have to be a huge full thing, but I really love to do some of that. Okay, so we're going to let the clock get rolling here. And we've won down here. We're pushing into there. Those engineers are pushing up after the partisans. This is really starting to worry me a bit. Well, maybe not so bad. Yeah, that's what we're sort of worrying about, losing supplies there. Okay. You guys come this way. We'll see if we can get you back across the Red Sea. Yes, we did. Lustenjäger. A couple episodes, played a bunch of it yesterday. There'll be more episodes coming soon to the YouTube channel. And of course, we're also moving up into here. So far, it's going pretty well with the Total War. I say that because I'm withholding, like anything. Not that I'm expecting it to not be good. I'm expecting it to be good, but I'm just sort of withholding judgment, as it were, until really sort of get into the war. Though I will say, it would probably, if I wasn't playing it for the web channel, if it was just, what the hell is these guys fighting here? Well, you back off, and because we have these guys here now fighting this. Okay, probably would get me to quit is that event that gives this region to Britain and this region to France after Japan defeats China. I thought that was entirely unrealistic. And why don't we take a look, mentioning Germany and whatnot. They're being pushed back. They had been all the way up to sort of Archangel up here in the north. And they've sort of breached the line. I don't know, that doesn't have enough infrastructure, but they've breached the line. They can move north there now. Germany is not doing well at the moment. Well, they're now, though, I mean, before they had been sort of stuck down here, but they're getting to the Crimea down here, but that still isn't all that good. Of course, we now have Huskies landed and is moving on to Calabria, which is also not a good thing. Oh, we have a spam of German. See, I'm not used to seeing this because I'm not used to Italy really being invaded in any of my playthroughs. Because I've not played this as from the Axis side that allows that to happen. There's sort of German defense of central Italy. Okay, and a major partisan outbreak. How lovely. Well, the Italians did do a counter landing here. Okay, we've won the Battle of Al-Kuwaiti. Yeah. Let's come up to here. Why are you retreating? I don't think I wanted you to retreat. Maybe I did. Wow. Move in something of that direction. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's, I mean, to me that's game breaking, quite honestly. I'm not going to quit the series right now, but I am... I would have quit it if it was just me playing alone. Okay, stop defending, attack. As they say, other than that, how are things? And pretty good, actually, with Total War. Maybe, Arno. I'm considering it, but first we're going to get through 2 or 3 episodes at least of... Oh, okay, they've got lots of air there. Do we have... Oh, we'll come down here. Move to there. Is Hoi 3 model ships being too big for the Panama Canal? No. I don't think there were any too big. I do know the Iowa-class battleships were built specifically to be able to go through the Panama Canal, to the point that I remember at the time when they, when they were reactivated in the 80s under Reagan, one of them was needing to go through the Panama Canal. So they had to go to it with a cutting torch and remove some of the stuff that hung over the side of the ship a bit. Um, you know, uh, you know, uh, Ladders or whatever you want to call them, boarding ladders or whatever you want to sort of call them. A few things like that that were just put on the ship at some point, maybe even originally as designed, but just something that makes, because they just have literally inches to spare to get through it. And I do believe all the American aircraft carriers still to this day are specifically designed to be able to go through the Panama Canal and that. But this is just a sea strait, so it is not anything more, as well as the Suez Canal is just a sea strait. Now, I don't know about the Suez Canal in the time of World War II. I do know that Germany was dropping aerial mines in the Suez Canal, sort of to indirectly block it. They hope to have a Allied ship come through, hit a mine, and then sink to the bottom of the canal, and then block the canal by sinking to the bottom of it. The British got big magnet field coil thing below some aircraft and started patrolling every day or a few times a day up and down the Panama Canal, because they believed, and I think they were, magnetically activated mines as opposed to contact, pressure contact mines, needing to hit something, to try to explode them from the air to keep the Germans or the Italians from blocking up with shipping. But I don't know if there's any, because I know the Suez Canal has been widened several times during its existence, and I know there's some sort of project to do new locks, build entirely new locks, sort of near where the current ones are, because they need to keep the current ones in operation for the Panama Canal. That'll be wider, and also use a lot less water, because there's a little bit of flow through the Panama Canal is partially determined by how fast can you load and unload the water, in each canal to get through the ships there. But it's also a matter of how much rainfall is filling up Lake Pontchartrain, which is an artificial lake that's in the center there. And so if you were to move more ships through the Panama Canal at any one day or time, every ship that goes through it lowers the level of the lake. So if you ran that through too much too fast, you would lower the lake down below the levels that the locks could work. Well, I saw some years ago now that they were working on a design, they had computer made that it all worked. I thought they were getting further. Maybe they're well into construction now. I don't know. Of another system that 80-90% of the water is pumped out into another sort of holding space rapidly, effectively, so that the and as well as filled. It's not so filling or draining so fast that it's a problem, speed wise for it, but just to move ships through the locks faster. Then they'd be wider to take bigger super tankers and do it with less water wastage. Well, yeah, okay, the Yamato would be, but then that's just Japan. That's not anybody else. And I could see that would be very likely, because I could look at a comparison size thing. If it's done right, we would see if it's any wider than a New Jersey class or an Iowa class battleship. It would be literally too wide to get through. Okay, so they're actually building them now. Good to know. Now I know the Arab-Israeli, was it the 6-Day War, including the French and British attempt to retake the Suez Canal joint operation, sort of closed the Suez Canal for a while, or effectively because it was the front line of that for a few years. Closed the Suez Canal. So that's when they started to build super tankers. They had been building tankers and things to go through the Suez Canal. They built super tankers to be able to go effectively around Africa to get to Europe or the US with oil. And then, of course, once that was no longer an issue, they widened the Suez Canal to get super tankers through. I don't know if super tankers go through Panama Canal, but then again, mostly you don't need to do that. But yeah, bigger locks would help. You're right. Okay, good. But I don't think it's something they can do just because this is a strait. Like you have a strait here. Obviously, they've now built a bridge here, but and straits here that yeah, I think the Bosphorus is fairly wide. I think it's more the Dardanelles down here that the narrower one, but I'm not sure on that either. You know, that you just have a general strait mechanic. It's nothing more than that. Right, yeah. So let's continue this. IKB loves infrastructure and how infrastructure affects things. So that is just generally, if you're wondering, is why he's bringing that up, and we've been discussing railroads for Hearts of Iron 4 and how they might operate and such. So now this is interesting. We have a Saudi unit here that is part of the new Axis Saudi unit, and we have a Saudi unit here that's in British service. How interesting that when they had maybe already been loaned to the British when they were collapsing. Okay, you come up here, you come up here. Okay, so we've won here and here. So you guys come down to there to help with that. You're about all done in. Okay, yeah, you can come down here because you're getting a reinforcement there. Okay, well, yeah, you get to sort of hang out there. As soon as you can, you're going to advance. How many hours do we have? 12 and 10 hours. Okay. Well, let's just push now. You'll be ready to go when they get there. Okay, let's see if moving you forward to at least here. I'm hoping to, well, we will rebase. I'm hoping to keep them in connection to here or some other place, but we'll see. Because infrastructure really had a critical role in World War II. It is a massive determiner of why things happened the way they did. Because I'm sure Tippett could give us very good reasons why you couldn't supply all of these divisions down here in this part of Australia at this time effectively, unless they were on a railway and you controlled the railway. And so that would mean certain provinces and their control would be critical. I don't have a railway map in front of me and I can't easily click over to one. Well, I don't know that I can even get to Panama. I can't even get my long-range submarines to here. So, get to Panama with an effective invasion force. This is my closest, or I don't know technically which from, you know, how you count it from sea province to sea province, whether Hawaii or whatever Christmas Island here is. Yeah, I do have to look. I've heard of Christmas Island, and what is this? Phoenix Island. No, I haven't really heard of this, but some of these are like, I don't know. Fiji is what, here? No, Fiji is, yeah, here. Yeah, I know some of these guys, but so I gotta check to know which one's which. Not that good on geography, but to be able to land here, I don't know that I can. I do believe I can get to Mexico or California, but then I'm immediately going to be hammered by U.S. armor. And we're seeing that I'm fighting them, but I'm about ready to collapse here. The one unit isn't terribly great, but from this attack, I'm only sort of barely holding on in some of these other places. So this is against Australia. Now this Australia is much stronger than historical Australia. Right, yeah, you're saying it wouldn't be easy to supply. Yeah, without that railway. And so, and I, like I was starting to say, I don't have a good railway map of this available right now, although I think I have a somewhat period railway map somewhere tucked away. But I'm not even sure if there's railway along here, but if there is, say, it would be coming through, say, something like this province, maybe to here, to here, to here, or some such thing. And so if you don't control this province, but you swing around this way, it should mean you get really sucked out of any possible supply, but supply could flow this way. And this is why Tippett and I think railways are really, really important to this game outside of Europe, because once you're looking in most of this Europe, most of these provinces, even the small ones here, you know, and comparatively much smaller provinces, have a railway somewhere in them. Whether a major or minor railway, that may be to be determined, but okay, so you're pushing on there. You guys come up towards Agra there. You guys, well, yeah, you can move. Well, maybe that'd be better. Well, looks like, oh, it's our partisans, that's right. Okay, you come back there. Okay, that's all right. Still a little pissed they took my oil there. I wanted that oil. 60 oil. Oh, lovely. That would be a nightmare. No, there is in this version of Black Ice. After you go to war with the Soviet Union, rail structure, or the infrastructure, shall we say, gets worse. And then there are events that you can spend supplies on that will increase the infrastructure broadly, which represents changing of the gauges of the railway. It doesn't represent building new railways, but just simply going in and repairing any sort of, damage done during battle or retreat or whatever, and then converting it to the German standard or the European standard. Now, of course, there is also, if I'm not mistaken, and IKB is the guy to correct me, Spain is on a different standard than the rest of Europe. At least I think so at this time. I may be wrong about that. I may misremember that. Yeah, though. Yeah, well, looks like they've decided to go, because this is, again, sort of representing, because this is the Via Balboa, right along the coast. They, Balboa, the Italian fascist guy, was sort of responsible for building the roadway along the coast. So there is no railway here, but there is a nice, fairly nice highway. Not quite an Autobahn style, you know, high-speed highway, but a nice sort of standard low-speed highway going along the coast of the Via Balboa. And so with basically zero infrastructure here, does make this a very real historical choke point as well. And we also have oh wow, landings. These have got to be scripted. Parachute landings in there, mountain division landings there. I don't know if that's scripted, but a French unit, maybe. Free French, yeah, it could be. Probably scripted if there's both there, yeah. So Italy is collapsing. Recon communication. Let's see if we could shift that over to... Yeah, we can use recon. But part of the thing is, and I don't know, obviously, because like I say, I don't even have a basic railway map in front of me, and I don't know if what I have gauges on it. But if there are, shall we say, short, limited rail lines that do have different gauges, all you've got to really do is destroy the few engines that are immediately capturable, shall we say. No, took out a light cruiser, so that's sort of good that we're still moving out here with fairly heavy forces. Okay, but we're going to put you, and we're going to risk this, because we want to go now. We've delayed it longer than I should. I guess rebase, we've got to do that into there. And so... it might not be too bad for the, you know, original owners, if you will, of the railway system, the Australians, dealing with different gauges and having to load and unload supplies to get to other areas and whatnot. But it would be a nightmare for an invading force that has any sort of level of sabotage, because they would just simply destroy a few railway engines and whatnot and completely shut down their use. Because it's, I guess, well, I don't know how big of various variants there are in the railway gauges. I guess it might be easier to artificially take a railway engine and spread its width out a bit more. But and if you have access to reasonably good tool system, you know, production, probably wouldn't be that hard to make some quick conversion things that would work for a while at least. But going to too narrow of a thing, that would be an impossibility, because the engine's already so wide, unless there was a lot of play in there already. But yeah, it would be a nightmare if it's a problem. But I don't know that we can simulate it on this game. I think, well, I know Tippett would love to be working on a game called well, what would we call it? The Rail War of World War II, or something like that, in which you play sort of railway management for World War II on one side or the other. And which could be, because hey, there's a really popular game out, you know, Farm Simulator, that you simulate running a modern farm. So there would be a, maybe not terribly popular, but there would be an audience for, and an interesting game to, like, manage railroads in World War II and upgrade them Reichway Tycoon. That works. That's great. That's a great title. Reichway Tycoon. Yeah, that kind of thing. And there really would be, whether from the Allies or from the German side or even the Soviet side, you manage the railway system, where you have to repair bomb damage, where you have to change railway gauges and production of engines and production of railway cars or tanker cars or whatever, and railway, mostly supply. Could be some railway armored vehicle, armored trains or whatnot. But play the whole railway management. It would be a fascinating game, but obviously that is not appropriate for any version of Hearts of Iron. It's just way too detailed. Yes, that's very true. I understand that building different gauges. If I remember correctly, the original Iranian railways stopped, I don't know, some number of miles, 5, 10, 20, I forget, away from the major ports around Iran, so that you had to stop it from being easy to invade Iran using the railway system. And so that it was just, so you'd unload cargo from the ship, move it via wagons or whatever originally, and then trucks maybe later to the railway yard, and then put it on the railway yard to sort of give that a buffer zone. Sort of defeats some of the purpose, but that's my understanding of what they were doing. And then like a short pipeline or something, so that you could move oil as an export thing out of the country easily. Just a few miles of pipeline, and the rest was carried on, railway cars that are, tanker cars. Okay, aviation air search radar. I'm presuming this is under here. No, it's not. It is here, 45. Yes, that is way too far in advance to keep researching, at least. Well, we're now going to start doing this again, and we're going to start with building ships. Speed that up. Okay, and let's hit the save button, and we're going to end the episode, not the live stream. We're going to keep streaming here. Don't go away unless you want to, but so we're going to end this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Love to hear your comments. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.